Hello, everyone. This is Jamaica 411. Thank you for stopping by as usual. And I'm going to give you a little analysis. Well, it's actually early in the morning. I was supposed to have done this last night, so I'm just getting round to it. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. I appreciate your company. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. If you are not, then please subscribe if you find that you like the channel and you like the information that I'm bringing to you. And remember also to click on the notification button, as well as thumbs up if you like the content, and share to everyone in Jamaica and abroad. But I would like you to share especially to anyone you know in Hanover, because this is another in the latest of the Hanover municipality saga. So, without further ado, let me begin. Now, this latest drama, and yes, it is drama, is not, as we would say in Jamaica, something ago, is something coming. And it concerns the recent refurbishing of the Hanover Infirmary. It was, some sections of it, I believe, was destroyed by a fire some years ago, and the government has, and the parish council has taken the decision to do some repairs, refurbishing of the infirmary. Now, based on the GIS, just to give you a little background, based on the GIS article dated January 25, 2022, and another article dated April 11, 2022, a contract was given for the building of a new kitchen, or the construction of a new kitchen. At some point, there was supposed to have been a construction of a matron quarters, as well as construction of a therapeutic park. And the therapeutic park was intended basically for the comfort of the 38 residents at the Hanover Infirmary and the staff. So according to the GIS, the new kitchen was to be built at a cost of 12 million. They didn't say at that time what the cost of the matron's quarters as well as the therapeutic park. However, in a later article, the matron's quarters was to be constructed for 20 million, and the therapeutic park was to be constructed for 5 million. We are talking about Jamaican dollars. Now, the overall cost of the project for the refurbishing, construction, and I do believe furnishing of the infirmary was estimated to be 260 million, plus the 20 million for the matron's quarters. So that's a total of 260 million. Now, it's not the contract amount that is in dispute or anything necessary to do with that amount of money. Not this time around. Something totally different. Now, in a little while, I'm going to be showing you a document, which is a letter from the attorney at law representing Mr. Alfred Grayson, an independent contractor. This lawsuit tells a rather strange tale. And when I say strange, I mean strange, because it is incredible that anybody with experience and knowledge of how government works in Jamaica and the government's procurement procedures, it's incredible that anyone with such knowledge could possibly find themselves in this position, as Mr. Alfred Grayson found himself. Strange, because after 2 years, a voice note, a voice recording, purported to be that of Mr. Alfred Grayson, threatening to send documents to Craig Oates if he is not paid the money he says is owed to him by the Hanover municipality. But before I share with you that letter from Mr. Alfred Grayson's attorney, let me now play for you that voice note, voice recording, whichever it was, purported to be that of Mr. Alfred Grayson, addressed to the mayor of Hanover, mayor of Lucea, that is Mr. Sheridan Samuels. Listen.
Mr. Mayor, good evening. I want to know what they go on as it relates to my money what the parish council have. And if me can't get my money by Friday, I'm going to go to Craig with the argument. And member send me have the letter. And member send me have whatever else me have. All right? So I want my money. So you see, if you not tell Humphrey to sign up the thing for my money, right? Because Humphrey feels say if you not get money or tight, if you sign up here, right? And I saw him a behave and I saw him a go on. So guess what me know? We go to Craig to the information. Or I want my money by Friday the latest. So if I not get money by Friday the latest, we'll create a scandal. I'm a serious system. I'm not wait no longer for my money. So decide what I depend, come want my money.
So Mr. Grayson, or at any rate, the voice that is purporting to be that of Mr. Alfred Grayson, is saying to Mayor Sheridan, I have the letter and documents, and I'm threatening to release them to Craig to create a big scandal if if he doesn't get the money, according to him, that the parish council has. Okay? So he's not claiming that the parish council paid the money to anybody. He's alleging that the parish council still has the money. Now, the second thing he said in that voice note, that voice recording, is he mentioned somebody called Humphrey. Now, we don't know which Humphrey this is, if whether this Humphrey works with the parish council or if Mr. Humphrey is some kind of liaison, between our agent or representing a company. We're not sure. But anyway, he mentioned Humphrey, and he's alleging that this person, Humphrey, is refusing to sign off on whatever document he sent Mr. Humphrey so he can get his money. And he's claiming that Humphrey wants a little something in return for signing off. Now, we don't know anything about that. We don't know if it is true. And, well, that is what he said. So let us now turn our attention to the letter. And I should also remind you that this infirmary refurbishing construction was from the first time we saw anything printed was by GIS on January 25, 2022. This is 2 years ago. All right, so let's get down to it now. So here we have now the letter from the attorney Laura K. Williams, who said in the letter that she acts on behalf of Mr. Alfred Grayson. Now, the letter is dated June 1, 2023. And as you would recall, the construction and the repairs and the refurbishing, as well as the furnishing of the infirmary, was partly done in 2022. His part of the job, Laura will outline in this letter. She will also outline for us the sequence of events as far as her client has informed her. Now, the letter states, as it is captioned here, that she is representing Mr. Alfred Grayson in the matter of the outstanding payment for work done on kitchen area of the Lucea Infirmary. So this is saying basically that what he worked on was the kitchen area. So he had done some work in the kitchen area. Now I would like you to listen carefully. Now I'm going to read it for you. And I want you to tell me, I want you to spot the one thing that this letter does not say. All right, let's go. We're going to be detectives today. All right. So the sequence of events, according to Mr. Grayson, as written by his attorney. No, he's saying that on February 10, 2022, please note that date. So it's February 10, 2022, Mr. Grayson was contacted by Mr. Dwayne Johnson. Who is he? Mr. Dwayne Johnson is the superintendent of works at the Lucea Municipal Corporation. And he asked Mr. Grayson to complete construction work at the Lucea Infirmary. So it says now, it was agreed that he would complete the work at an estimated cost of $3,500,000. Right? So evidently the job was not complete on the kitchen, and he was asked to finish it up for them. So anyway, Mr. Grayson was advised, according to the letter, that the work was commenced by another individual. Notice here now, another individual who had refused to complete the job, and therefore his services are being sought to complete same. He then proceeded to perform tasks aimed at completing the job. This lasted for a period of 4 months, February 2022 to May 2022. Note that date. During the period of construction, Mr. Dwayne Johnson only gave Mr. Grayson a cash payment in the sum of $300,000 to assist with the purchasing of material and labor. That's a deposit, right? So now the attorney is describing now the scope of work that was done by Mr. Grayson on the infirmary. The work that was done includes finishing the roof, plumbing, electrical, painting, masonry, purchasing and installation of doors and windows, construction and installation of shelves, adjusting window lintels, installation of fascia boards, design and build entry point for kitchen, etc. Big job. The total due for the work is $1,850,540.71. This sum covers transportation of material and finishing items, material cost, and labor as follows. So now the lawyer is outlining now what was stated in the invoice, because they cannot get paid unless you submit an invoice. So this was what he charged the municipality. So he says for transportation of material, it costed $150,000. Material and finishing items, $908,850. And for labor costs, $791,690.71 to give you that total of $1,850,540.71. We will refer to this sum from time to time as 1.85 million. Okay, there. So, according to the attorney, he has been trying to recover the outstanding monies from the corporation, and as such, he made contact with Mr. Dwayne Johnson. Now remember, Mr. Dwayne Johnson was the one, who asked him to do the job of completing the kitchen for the municipality. And it was Mr. Dwayne Johnson who would have given him the advance of $300,000 in cash so he can buy material and do other stuff until such time. So we are to assume if it cost the Mr. Grayson 1.85 million, that the rest of the money would have come out of Grayson's pocket. Okay. Now, listen to this now. He made contact with Mr. Johnson, who advised him that payment for his work was already made to Archistruct Limited. You heard that? Archistruct Limited. That is a company. Now remember, Mr. Johnson told, or at least the attorneys alleging that Mr. Johnson told Mr. Grayson, her client, that it was an individual who was doing the work. Notice that? All right. So the letter goes on to say he is an independent contractor. This is Mr. Grayson, He's an independent contractor and has never worked for nor with Archistruct Limited. He never gave instructions nor permission for my payment to be made to Archistruct Limited, nor its representatives on his behalf. Having regards to the fact that Mr. Grayson has been awaiting payment since May of 2022, we are demanding that payment be made within 30 days of receipt of this letter. Failure to do so will force Mr. Grayson to forward a copy of this letter to the Ministry of Local Government and file a claim in the Supreme Court for the outstanding amount. I look forward to a prompt resolution of this matter. Please feel free to make contact with either myself or Mr. Grayson regarding this matter. And it's respectfully, Laura Williams. No signature. Doesn't matter. So, the letter that was written on June 1, by July 1, I suppose, they were expecting some kind of payment or response from the parish council, failing which they would have sued to take them to court, Supreme Court, because it's an amount over $1 million. When it's an amount over $1 million, it has to go to the Supreme Court for, and they will be suing for recovery of money owed. Is that it? Now, what we don't know, and I think we can fairly guess, that Mr. Grayson did not pursue the matter legally. Instead, he has taken a different path which may sound to some like blackmail. He may call it a strategic way in order to recover the money. Now, let's return to this letter. The attorney is saying he's an independent contractor. And he gave no instructions or permission for anyone to pay money to the Archistruct Limited. Now, Archistruct Limited apparently was the company that was contracted by the municipality to do the repairs and construction to the infirmary. Now, how it came about that Mr. Grayson ended up on this project is a great mystery. Now, I say a great mystery because I told you to, when I read it for you, to see if you could pinpoint anything that was missing from this letter. Don't know if you guessed it, but what I noticed is that the attorney at no time said that the municipality entered into any contract with Mr. Grayson. The contract apparently was with the Archistruct Limited. Now, these revelations, firstly from Mr. Grayson himself in that voice recording, and secondly in the letter from his attorney addressed to Mayor Sheridan Samuels, raises some questions. Certainly in my mind, I'm sure they have raised questions in your mind as well. Why is Mr. Grayson asking the mayor to release this money? What money? The 1.85 million he's speaking about. What does Mr. Grayson mean by his strange comment that Humphrey does not want to sign off on the works so he can get his money because Humphrey wants him to give him something out of it. In other words, he's accusing this Humphrey, whoever this Humphrey is, of wanting a kickback in order to pay him his own money. Now, that may well be because he does not apparently have a contract with the municipality. So he seems to be suggesting that Mr. Humphrey is saying that he's in a position to let him have the money without, despite the fact that he has no contract with the municipality. He can let him get his money. But you have to do a little thing for me. That seems to be what is being implied here. Or at any rate, we could fairly guess that that is perhaps what is going on here with these strange pronouncements. Now, who is Mr. Humphrey? Is he employed to the Hanover Parish Council or municipality, as they call them these days? And if he is, exactly in what capacity? Now, if that wasn't strange enough, even stranger, if that is even possible, is the question of the peculiar circumstance which led to Mr. Grayson being allowed to work on the infirmary in the first place. If he has no contract with the municipal parish council, who the Dickens could have given permission to go into a government property and made alterations without contract? Who gave him that permission? He had to have permission from somebody. Now, at this point, it may be useful for me to explain what the government procedure is when it comes to procurement for work to be done on behalf of the government, any government entity, any government body, any government board. All right. So I called the parish council and I was told that when there is job to be done, for example, the infirmary in bad shape was destroyed, I believe, by fire, or I think it was fire, yes. And so and then they wanted to add a recreation area for the patients, so they can have a little comfort there. And so when the need arises, it is the Road and Works Department which identifies what needs to be done. Once that is identified, they do an assessment. This assessment may be carried out by officers of the Road and Works Department who would, give an estimate as to the cost and I suppose material. Or I guess if the contract is a bigger contract, then they would now outsource it to quantity surveyors who would be able to now give them, I believe what they call a bill of costs and an estimate as to what it will cost for what it is that the government wants to be done to any particular property. Now, according to the government of Jamaica procurement rules, depending on what is to be done, any contract amount for 1.5 million and above, it has to be put to tender. Now, you recall that the tender process is that, you advertise, ask for persons to come in and bid, and it's closed at a certain time. They open the bids, and then they award the contract according to how they assess what is being offered. And I'm sure a lot of things go into that. Then after that tender process is closed and they decide on a contractor, then they proceed to contract, and negotiations is then involved. Now, the government may state if the contractor fails to complete, they may pay a penalty. So everything is about the contract, the scope of work, the money, when it is to start, when it is to end, And if the money is to be paid in installment, or if there's an advance of X amount, or there's to be a bond, and so on. And what should happen if the project is incomplete? Should the contractor pay the government, or the government going to say, okay, we can give it to somebody else? All of that is in the contract, and that would have been done with the contract company, because remember now, this project, according to the local government ministry, is 280 million. So it's apparently is an ongoing process. Even so, even if RK Truck Limited were to receive a partial contract, meaning that their contract may have only been for the construction of the kitchen, the matron's quarters, as well as the recreation area, which the GIS reported had an estimated cost of 37 million. That contract would likely to have gone to tender, except if the company Archistruct Limited was itself a subcontractor to the main contractor, who may have gotten the contract to construct and repair and furnish the Hanover Infirmary. So they could have been a subcontractor themselves, in which event the contract would not be with the municipality, but with the main contractor. But the mere fact that the attorney is claiming that the money that was supposed to have been paid over to Mr. Grayson for the job that he had done in completing the kitchen was paid over to the company Archis Trust Limited, it would imply that Archis Trust Limited had a contract directly with the municipality. So the question of it being a subcontractor is now out the window. So we have now established that the company Archistruct Limited is not a subcontractor, but most likely was the company the municipality contracted to construct, repair, furnish the Hanover Infirmary to the tune of 260 million plus an additional 20 million for the construction of a new matron's quarters. Now recall that the attorney had said in the letter that Mr. Grayson was an independent contractor. He was not acting, therefore, as a subcontractor in the completion of the kitchen area. That's what that letter meant. He's an independent contractor, not working with anybody. He was asked to do a job. He did the job. He sent the invoice, and they were told when they inquired that the money was paid over to the contractor who did not do the job. This is what the attorney is alleging to have happened. So we must ask ourselves some more questions. Now, if Mr. Grayson was not acting as a subcontractor of Archistruct Limited, then on whose behalf was he acting? The next question is, how did someone, because Mr. Grayson has described himself as an independent contractor, so we're not quite sure if he's acting as a person or he has a company through which he does his business. But the question is, how did he and how was he allowed to enter the infirmary to make alteration to the building without a contract? This is a government building. And for 4 months, he was there coming every day, or 5 days a week, 6 days a week for 4 months, working on this building without a contract, altering the building without a contract, right? So who gave permission for the work to be done? Who was it that established the scope of works, who negotiated the terms, and who negotiated the conditions. Who would have done that? Now, why would anybody who knows the government procurement procedures think that they could enter into construction without a contract? Here is the rub. How it is and why it is that Mr. Grayson took this job without a contract, not working as a subcontractor under the main contractor. How was he expected to be paid without a contract? Without a contract with the municipality. The municipality will be unable to pay him. Yet he went and he did a job. A very strange thing, I'm sure you would agree. But that seems not to be enough in this very strange saga of the latest drama in the Hanover municipality. You know what is even stranger? Boy, there are lots of strange things going on, eh? How many times have I used the word? What is even stranger is the attorney claiming in the letter that Mr. Grayson was paid by Mr. Dwayne Johnson $300,000 in cash. You know what the municipality told me today? The municipality said they do not pay cash. They do not issue cash. Whenever they're paying their contractors, they pay them by check. So when Mr. Grayson saw Mr. Johnson coming to him to give him $300,000 in cash, didn't he find that strange? Is this the first job that he was doing for the parish council? Didn't he find it strange? Because this has now raised some more questions. Has he ever done work for the government before? Another question that we should ask, because we noticed that in the letter from the attorney, Mr. Grayson did not say he did not know the Alkis. I don't know why they come with this name that people can't pronounce. The Alkis Trust Limited. He never said he's never heard of them. So I would like to ask the question, was Mr. Grayson an employee of Alkis Trust Limited? Was he an employee? He said he was not a subcontractor. Was he an employee? Was he an employee? And did someone contact him with this plan and ask him to do work on the kitchen area? Contracted him to do work. Was this the first big job for Mr. Grayson? A 3.5 million contract. He did the job for 1.85 million. Was this his first big job? Who was it? We know that Mr. Johnson approached him and told him a story. And gave him $300,000 in cash to start the building, and apparently not a dollar since he found his money and completed the project. Now, those are some questions that came to mind. So let us turn our attention now to what happened when the project was completed. According to the attorney, the project took 4 months. So now, project is completed. He needs somebody to now sign off on it. And it would either be the officer, because it's a small contract, so it's probably an internal officer would come and assess to see whether or not the judge, this is what he's anticipating, because that is what would happen even if he's working for a private person. They will come and assess the work and see if he had completed the job according to the scope of work that he was given. Somebody would then sign off on it, and they would then tell him what to do in order to get paid. So the project is now over. Now, was the payment made, in fact, to Archistruct Limited, as Grayson's attorney alleged in the letter? Remember, she said that they understand that the 1.8 million was paid over to the company. We don't know if it had happened. Did it happen? Was that what happened? Now, if the payment was made to that company, why was it paid to them? If the name on the invoice, I remember, no, he's sending an invoice. He says he's an independent contractor, not working for anybody. So on the invoice, let us assume he's an individual that did the work. So on that invoice, he would have his name, Alfred Grayson, of such and such an address. And then he would itemize what it is that he's asking the parish council to pay in order to recover the money that he spent, and labor and little profit and all that. So if the name on the invoice was Alfred Grayson, why was the invoice not rejected? Remember now, the parish council under contract with him, So when the invoice came in, well, isn't it natural that they would have rejected it? Instead, Grayson's attorney is alleging that the money was paid over to the contractor Arkis Truck Limited. Now, what could have possibly be the reason for the parish council to pay the company when an independent contractor did the work? Assuming the company was paid. An independent contractor who, it would appear, did not have a contract with them. Now, why was not an investigation launched into this matter? That now may be a question for the mayor, Sheridan Samuels. Recall also that it was further alleged by the attorney that the $300,000 in cash was paid over to Mr. Grayson by Dwayne Johnson. Now, was Dwayne Johnson acting on his own, or was he acting on somebody else's behalf? Where did this $300,000 come from? And exactly who was it that Mr. Grayson was working for? Because if he has no contract with the municipality, then somebody asked him to complete this job. And the question is, who are they? To complicate the matter even further, remember that Mr. Grayson said in the voice recording, or at any rate we may come to the conclusion from what he said, is that the money was not paid over to the company at all. The money is still with the parish council. So did Mr. Grayson investigate the matter himself? Is it a case that he went to the company, Arkis Trust Limited, and asked about whether or not they received any money from the parish council for the completion of the kitchen? That would have been a smart thing to do, and that's probably what he did. He is of the view, therefore, that the money is still there at the parish council. Still there, not paid over to any company. So now he has sent a voice note to the mayor demanding payment, or else. Now, why the mayor? Why the mayor when it's the Road and Works Department through which he would have submitted his invoice? The Road and Works Department. The invoice would have gone to them, and then they would have assessed the job to see whether it was completed according to the agreement, and then it would have been signed off. After it's signed off, it would go to finance, where arrangements will be made for when he should come and pick up his check. So why is he demanding his money from the mayor? Why did he call the mayor? Why did he call the mayor and threaten to go public, basically? Because if he's going to give anything to Craig, he's expecting Craig to bawl it out. What has the mayor to do with the completion of the kitchen for an estimated 3.5 million? How the mayor come into that? Yet Mr. Grayson, for some reason, seems to think the mayor has something to do with him being contracted. Or is it a case where he is trying to get his money from the parish council, and since the mayor is more or less the person in charge, he thinks that the mayor can do something to let him have his money? If that is the case, what is this letter that Grayson said he was going to hand over to Craig Oates? Was that the letter from the attorney? Perhaps. But he alluded to some other documents that he could hand over as well. And it would seem that Mr. Grayson expects the mayor to believe the information contained in the documents that he says he has to be damaging to him. And so we are back to asking the mayor to explain to Hanover and the rest of us what is the meaning of these strange statements by Mr. Grayson. Why does Mr. Grayson believe that you, Mayor, had something to do with the non-payment? And if we were to look again at this $300,000 in cash that was paid over to Mr. Grayson, the attorney alleged by Mr. Dwayne Johnson. If we look at that again, we could ask the question, was Mr. Grayson not aware that the money he received did not come from the parish council, but from a third party? If he was not aware, why did he think the parish council would make an exception and pay him in cash? The parish council pays by check. He received cash. Now, is it a matter, or does Mr. Grayson has connections in the parish council? Is this the explanation? Is it that Mr. Grayson has a little connection? You know, we all know people in the parish council. Is it possible? And did that person use their position to benefit a friend, family, perhaps, permitting him to complete the work without a signed contract? Was this what happened? We don't know. And did that connection screw him over by submitting another invoice and pocketed the money, then lied, claiming that the municipality paid the 1.85 million to the contractor, Archistruct Limited? Is this what Mr. Grayson is alleging in his threat to the mayor in that voice note? Now, is the mayor aware of this situation? Was he made aware of the situation that someone, Mr. Grayson, had completed a work on the infirmary, and he was given $300,000 in cash, allegedly by Mr. Dwayne Johnson, to complete the work? Is the mayor aware of that? Has the mayor done any investigations? We would like to hear from you, Mayor. We love to hear from you. We love to know things. And we love to get at the truth. So we want to know what happened. If you have investigated and you found out what happened. And we would also like you to answer, why is it Mr. Grayson is so pointed in his threat? Should we call it a threat? To expose you. Why expose you? And what it is that he has in his possession. Can you help us with that, Mr. Mayor? We would like to know that as well. Because you see, we can't have our public officials being um, threatened in this way. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. So we'd like to know what is happening here. And as for the lawsuit that was threatened, that seemed not to have been pursued, it seems to me that Grayson's cause of action is against Dwayne Johnson, if the allegations are true. And at the time when the letter was drafted and sent to the municipality, Archistruct Limited was believed to have received the money, which they should not have if they didn't complete the job. So it seems to me that they would want to name Archistruct Limited as a defendant if there was to be a suit, and Dwayne Johnson as a second defendant, to explain the circumstances which led monies being paid to Archistruct Limited instead of Alfred Grayson, who said he acted as an independent contractor, not as a subcontractor to Archistruct Limited. So that seems to me, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm just thinking that the lawsuit, if any, was to exist, should have been between those persons. Instead, they were threatening to sue the municipality. And the fact that they named the mayor, or the letter was drafted to the mayor, would suggest that he would have been a defendant as well. And we'd also like to know why it was that the attorney and Mr. Grayson targeted him and not Dwayne Johnson, who was the one who spoke to Mr. Grayson and gave him permission to work on this government property, altering it without a contract. So these are some things the mayor would need to answer. All of this has happened under his watch. So this is the latest goings on in the Hanover municipality. Mr. Grayson has given the mayor until Friday. Now, Friday would have been this Friday, Friday the 9th of February 2024, to cough up his money, or he's going to send some documents to Craig Oates for Craig Oates to ball it out. So we wait patiently until Friday to see what happens. So, my friends, as usual, I've taken up a lot of your time today. And I thank you as always for listening. I hope I have given you some information. I hope I've told you something that you didn't know before, especially when it comes to the operations of government. Government seem not to want to tell us about how it works. And join me next time. Please remember, if you haven't done so already, to subscribe, share, and give us a thumbs up if you like the content. And I'll see you next time. All good.